Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone here to the March 15th Board of Supervisors meeting. At this time, I'm going to call it to order and ask Mr. Slade if he'd give us the invocation.
Glad to. Let's pray. Father, on this occasion, we open this meeting, as always, by invoking your presence here with us today. Thanking you for the many blessings that you have bestowed on our county. Father, how you just bless us abundantly with resources, with people. Father, with everything that we need. All of the resources that we need to effectively govern the people of this community. Father, these men you've given to this community to serve as leaders. Thank you for their willingness to step up and to serve, to sacrifice, Lord, to make decisions that are hard decisions sometimes not popular. But thank you, Lord, for giving them to us and help them to be discerning and wise today as we consider the business of the county. Father, the men and women who take good care of us in public safety, emergency response, our firefighters, Lord, you, all of our EMTs, our ambulance guys, I think about all the folks that serve our community in public safety and how they put themselves at risk. I pray that you would protect them, bless them, and bring them home safely to their families. In Christ's name, amen.
Thank you, Mr. Slade. First on the agenda is public comments, and I've got James and Linda Wilson. If either one of y'all would like to come forward and speak. And if you would, just state your name and your address for the record.
My name is James Wilson. I'm talking about the property at 231 Bragg Street. Okay, my wife and her ex-husband used to stay there. He's deceased now, and they was living in a mobile home. And we want to try to put another mobile home there in that spot. If that one moved out, and put a double wide there. And they told us we couldn't do it. Now, Bragg Street is predominantly a mobile home. And the mobile home is filled with black mold, which I know is unlivable. But we want to try to get it out of there and try to put another one in there for us to live in.
What's the zoning on that, Mr. Renee?
R1B, moderate density residential.
Under our zoning ordinance, Ms. Renee, in the R1B zoning classification, mobile homes are not allowed. They are not allowed at all. They are prohibited in R1B. That's the same in any of the moderate density zoning classifications that we have. Is that correct?
Correct.
So we do have, from time to time, we have occasions where we are authorized under our zoning ordinance to provide relief like this, which we would call a hardship case. But that is restricted to RE1 zoning classification. And so that is the only residential classification of zoning where we would exercise discretion to provide for a hardship situation. So the mobile home, I believe, I think I'm right about this. I don't know for sure. Ms. Renee, you back check me on this. This particular mobile home, the one that Mr. Wilson, is that correct? I'm sorry, yes. That Mr. Wilson is describing was actually placed in this location in January of 2004. Is that right?
We have a permit in January of 2004.
Okay, so we provided for a permit. The reason I'm highlighting that date for you guys is that the county adopted its zoning ordinance in October of 2004. So the Board of Supervisors at that time adopted and implemented the very first zoning ordinance for the county in October of 2004. So this mobile home is sitting where it is because of your grandfathered status for the mobile home. Okay, so you allowed the mobile home to be placed here. Not you, but the Board of Supervisors at that time adopted the zoning ordinance and classified all of the property in this area along Bragg Street as R1B, moderate density residential. And so what that did is it allowed those units to stay where they are as long as they maintained their grandfathered status until they no longer maintain their grandfathered status. My understanding is that this unit has been vacant for some period of time, at least 6 months, if not longer, it's been vacant, okay? So under our zoning ordinance regulations, where the unit is vacant for a period of 6 months or longer, it loses its grandfathered status. And so there is not an option to allow for replacement of a mobile home at this site. There are options to put a stick-built house at this site, as long as it can be appropriately parceled and can be issued the appropriate address for that parcel, and building permits issued and construction and everything passes and a certificate of occupancy is issued, it can be occupied as a stick-built house. That is what's allowed under your zoning ordinance. There is not an accommodation here that would allow for a replacement mobile home under your zoning ordinance.
What's the area around like?
Mobile homes. It might be like 6 or 7 houses on that street. And they're spaced out, but the rest of it's mobile homes. They got a mobile home park on one side and just mobile homes all down through there.
Are these grandfathered?
Why do we zone it
Renee?
R1B?
Well, it is grandfathered until that one leaves, and then
Yeah.
it loses.
Yes, ma'am.
So
That's,
if they
that's right.
take it
That's,
out,
that's
it
correct.
loses it.
It's transitioning from mostly mobile homes over into residential structures. It's a transitional, we see this pretty consistently across the
But
board.
everybody's not gonna be able to afford that transition.
So, and that's why we provide for grandfathering of existing situations. The grandfathering stays in place until there is a triggering mechanism. If they lose power, they're without power for a requisite period, it's vacant for a requisite period, they
The mobile
attempt to
home
make
has power.
modifications to it.
Lady,
So-
what now? What'd you say?
There's power to that mobile home.
Craig,
But, I don't know, how long has,
Else you know this board, with the exception of one, wasn't here in 2004.
Yes, I'm Linda
We
Wilson.
weren't here.
Yes, but,
I don't know.
that
really
home
what time.
still do
if
have
there's
power.
use for that.
And for us, he's talking about the ordinance, it has been 2 mobile homes moved in there. It was one moved in there in 2017, it was burnt down.
2050?
It was 2017.
What's that?
Yeah, it was 2017.
Oh,
And
really?
then there's another one, replaced that home in 2018. So that couldn't be the
Oh.
case.
Yeah. Well,
Do you have any
it
record of
can
that?
be.
Huh?
How can,
It can be.
how can?
Well, there are oftentimes situations that the board doesn't address directly, doesn't know about, but it doesn't mean that they have released their authority under the zoning ordinance. It just happens that way. There is an option that Renee reminded me of. A modular home can be a conditional use in R1B. And so while it can't be rolled in there with wheels, there can be a context, a modular construction, which would be ostensibly, which would be a cheaper method of construction that would be compliant with your zoning ordinance under a conditional use. And so if the Wilsons wish to pursue a modular home for that location, we can entertain that as a conditional use request.
But I feel like that's unfair because if it has been some more mobile homes moved in there since 2004, why can't we upgrade? I
we're-
feel like that's unfair.
We're gonna,
Yeah.
we're gonna follow the ordinance from now on. We're
But-
gonna
but
make
see,
sure that
that's
this
not
is.
right because we don't pay the down payment on the
I
home. That's
understand.
not right. That's not right.
Our ordinance changes over time too.
Yeah.
We've made
But still,
changes.
if the ordinance
What'd you say, Renee?
changed, that trailer shouldn't have been able to be moved in there in
Let's
2018.
let Ms. Lawrence speak. Don't talk over her.
I'm
Ms.
not talking
Lawrence.
over
Yeah,
her,
yes,
but
you
what
are.
I'm saying.
Ms.
It shouldn't
Lawrence.
have
All
been
right,
moved
listen.
in there.
Listen to Ms. Lawrence,
Listen,
please.
listen.
I just said that over time, we've made changes to our ordinance, that things that might have been allowed early on in zoning are no longer, that way.
So why
Because
would
we've
this be
updated.
R1B?
Well, I'm sure the planners, saw that area that way. It backs up to Castlewood, so I assume that might be part of the reason why it was zoned.
That's not true.
It's a
Oh,
Well, we might all-
significant
we might
area.
should look at it, because I'm looking this road,
That's
there's
not
more
true.
mobile homes than there are houses on
It's
it.
a
Is
lot
it?
of mobile homes in there.
Have you got the map, Craig? You can see.
I have it, yeah.
Where
Jay,
it was.
it is a significant swath of R1D and additional dense, even more dense residential immediately contiguous. So we're talking about all of this in this light blue right here on the map. A bit of that is R1D construction.
Well, I'm looking on this road, and there's mostly mobile homes on
Mobile
this road.
homes. Exactly.
That have probably been there for years, you know.
No, it hasn't. Oh, ma'am, it has not. No.
Well, there is an option that's available. The modular housing with a conditional use would be a compromise position. It would certainly be less expensive than stick-built construction, but it would be in compliance with your current zoning ordinance. The board always has the option to revisit the zoning.
I mean, what you,
You know, say
Yeah, I
what?
mean, yeah, well, I mean, I think we need to go back and look at it and just see what we can do to make it work if we can. Let's go back and see. I just need some time to go back and look at the area and then make some adjustments and get some recommendations at that point.
We
So
can
just
also
give us a little
engage.
time to kind of figure out a good plan for us so everybody can be happy and be suitable in that area.
can you
We-
give
We'll
us
get
a
with
little time?
CMPDD
Yeah.
and ask them to help us look through this from
Let
a
us
zoning
look
and
through it.
planning
Yeah.
standpoint.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that we've got to, anytime we make a significant zoning adjustment, we've got to make a comprehensive plan adjustment, and those things take a little bit of time. We've got to do publications. You got to go out to the public for an opportunity to come and to speak on rezoning. So there's some entanglement here that would delay the process
Yeah.
to get to an answer, okay? So in the meantime, if the couple wishes to pursue the modular housing possibility, you avoid that lengthy delay that may be in place.
Yeah, so just,
Lengthy,
if you
how long
can,
is
just,
lengthy?
would just remind me again what y'all are wanting to do. Tell me what your wishes are.
Well, we done already went down to, mobile home place in, Hattiesburg. And we picked out a mobile home, put a down payment on it,
Okay,
got it financed and everything.
okay.
And then when she went to, get the lights, you know, get the light bill or whatever up there, what was the name of that place?
Central Power Electric.
Yeah, and they told us we had to get a permit,
From the county, put
yeah,
it in.
to put another mobile
Yeah,
home there.
and the mobile
Yeah, I
home
like-
manufacturer and the seller should know, they know, what's the name of the company that you dealt with in Hattiesburg?
It's,
I think we've dealt with them before.
Regional, yeah, regional, I think it's regional mobile home, but it's, is it regional?
I think we had them one time show up and
Yeah, regional
put
mobile
some,
home.
didn't we?
I
We've
didn't know they
provided
were-
them with our ordinance,
In the
have we
past,
not,
they
Ms. Renee?
did. There was one
Yeah, so
place
you're dealing with
in
people who
Hattiesburg.
know our rules, even down in Hattiesburg, they know our rules, and they didn't properly educate you guys on what our rules are. We require them or you guys, they have a responsibility, they can hand it off to you to secure a permit to locate a mobile home at this location before they start the process. So they led y'all down a path that they knew
Process
better,
is already-
okay? They knew better.
The process already
So-
been done, is what I'm saying.
I
So my
agree.
thing is, we gonna be at every board meeting until we get the
All
suggestion,
right, well,
because.
hang on, just give me just a second. We're trying to figure out a solution. So you gotta just hang with me just a
So
second.
how long would that be, because the
I'm trying
mobile
to, I'm
home
trying,
place?
I'm trying to talk through it. You gotta let me talk through it. All right, so give me just a second. So they're in a position where they've already purchased it, got your mobile home thing going. It's not on site though, right?
No, it's not on site.
Okay, it's not on site.
That's a
So
good thing.
we had a mobile home there, correct?
Yes.
Yes, it's,
And it's gone.
no, it's
No,
still
it's not
there.
gone.
All right, so what are we gonna do with that one?
They gonna move it
gonna
out.
pull it out.
They're gonna swap them. Is that what you're basically
They
saying?
gonna take that one, because it's got that mold in it, they
Right,
gonna
so
scrap it.
tell me how long that was unoccupied.
Well, my children's father was in the hospital.
Sure,
So he died of May the 21st of last year.
last year, okay.
Yes. So he just recently passed.
Okay,
But he was staying there, he was staying there. And his light's still at the house.
all right, where are y'all staying at now? Do you have a place to stay right now?
Mr.
Yeah,
Supervisor, let me
we
ask
can
this
share
question.
Yeah.
How- Has the power been cut off at any point?
No,
It's stayed
never
the
been
power?
cut off.
State, okay.
If y'all want to find that they have not lost the grandfather status on this unit, then I think we have the ability to continue to maintain the grandfather status, swap those units out as long as it's the same ownership.
Okay, because we haven't had a break in the power, all that kind of stuff, so that can almost continue the
Yeah.
grandfather use.
But I
Power's
want
been
it to
on
be
it
very
since
clear
been there.
on the record that what's happening here is that unit is still grandfathered.
Okay,
It goes all the way back to '04. It's still grandfathered. It's a different unit, okay? But the occupancy hasn't changed, the use hasn't changed, basically the description of what is there has not changed significantly, and therefore it is able to legally maintain its grandfathered status.
Yep.
And that is the only reason we are going to allow it under these circumstances.
okay. And you're telling me, just like what you said, you're gonna remove the old one, put the new one in,
Yeah.
get that all set up, continue the same service you've got right there,
Right.
keep everything up on that same side.
And this is a brand new
This is
mobile
a
home.
brand new,
Okay.
double wide.
Ms. Renee, can we make sure that we get the required permitting? And I'm fine dealing directly with this bunch in Hattiesburg and force them to get it all handled, okay? But we need to make sure we've got a permit to locate before we start any of this.
All right, so Slade, walk me through my motion to make that happen the way you just presented
We
it.
need-
I
need
don't
to add
think
it
we
to-
need to do anything. I think we just need to instruct Renee
Okay.
that what we're doing is we're allowing for a grandfather status here.
Because
We're
we
gonna
hadn't had a
move-
break.
That's correct. We're gonna move through our process. She's being directed to follow our normal policy and procedure as it relates to grandfathering,
Okay.
okay? But I wanna make sure that this bunch in Hattiesburg
Understands the
is
problem.
is
Well, because
on
we
top
had
of
an
this.
issue with a group, and I don't know which mobile home site it was in Hattiesburg before,
Multiple.
that we've had to deal with those. So, all right, so you kind of understand what's going on. She's gonna work with you to get your new trailer set up,
Okay.
right? And get it all in place right there.
Without the acreage.
Go through that process the right way. And if something flares back up at another point, we got a meeting on something.
Because all of this, Daniel, is
Yeah.
transitioning, we need to make sure that the Department of Health has an opportunity to address.
All the normal regulations,
the-
when
the
you're putting it
sewer
in, sewer
situation.
situation, Department of Health, all your applicable permits through the county, through the state, go through that process. No hiccups there, we should be okay.
Yeah, we should, except there's one small thing that we need to address. That the property is described in the land roll as somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 acres, I think it is, total.
20, I think.
20, all right, we're carrying it as 5.12 and 14.88 as unimproved. So this undoubtedly is heir property. I'm assuming that this is a situation where somebody has passed away, they didn't have a will, you've got a number of children who are eligible to make claims of title ownership of the property. It doesn't appear that that has been partitioned, segregated, parceled out among the heirs. There's probably been no determination of who all the lawful heirs are, so it's still being carried as a 20-acre piece of property. And so we've got multiple units on this acreage, am I right, Ms. Renee?
That's correct.
At some point, before we get too far along, guys, we are going to have separate parcels out of this larger acreage for the folks that we are permitting. Okay? So I advise that as a part of this process, we secure from the Wilsons an amount of acreage that they will control and on which this particular unit will be situated with the address tied to that parcel. That means that we need an attorney involved to make sure we get the title to this property situated. That needs to be handled.
You understand what he's talking about?
The, property.
Defining where it's going, how many acres it's going on, defining that out of your 20.
If y'all got
acres.
all 20, it's not an issue.
Yeah.
You
All the
just-
property's in her mama's.
We
name.
have all 20.
Okay.
It's not we have all 22 acres. I have the will right
But
there.
it's gotta be in your name.
It's gotta be in your name.
It's still being carried in somebody named John Blau
No,
Estate.
it's Blow. It's Patricia Jones. It's my mother.
I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Johnny
It's-
Blow is my granddaddy, and he's
Yeah,
deceased.
so I think what he's saying
It's
is.
still being
we-
carried in the estate.
we
It's
just
never
get-
been
what-
partited.
what-
It never has been determined as to
What
who
he's
actually
saying,
owns the
we gotta get
property.
the
It's not a
paperwork
big
right.
deal, it's just,
It's
you
just
just got
cleaning
to,
it up for you. It's helping you is what it's doing.
Not any problem for
it's,
you.
it's gonna be in
So-
your and your husband's name or.
Yeah. Patricia Jones is not standing before us today requesting anything from the Board of Supervisors. She is the owner of the property, part owner, and then whoever the heirs of John Blow estate are part owners of the property. It's never been divided. We
This
work
is a
with
way
the
to protect
property
you all,
owners.
really. This is, if I'm not mistaken, wouldn't this help protect them as well?
It will probably create a situation where folks who have never gone through the process and have it come to a decision about who owns what. Those can be hard conversations, Jared, but it's gotta be sorted. The heirs of John Blow and the heirs, or Miss Jones and the heirs need to determine who owns what out of this 20 acres. It's never been determined. All of that's just wadded up in one 20-acre parcel with no real title ownership having ever been determined.
All right, so basically what he's done is he's giving you some advice on how to clean your paperwork up on the property, right? Because it's not in your name. So you're putting a trailer or a mobile home on a piece of property that's not titled to y'all. So what he's trying to do is help you to let you know you need to get that cleaned up in some kind of legal manner that you're putting the mobile home on property that you own, right? Basically, what we end up doing now is we're allowing you to continue to do things, and the person whose property it's going on is not here saying it's okay. Does that make sense, what we're telling you? We're trying to help you.
It really could.
So that's the part we want you to understand. So go ahead.
Yeah, at present, what's happening is that the tax assessor is assessing the value of all of the personal property, the trailers that are out there. They are assessing that to the total acreage.
Yep.
Okay? So
Well, all right,
everybody,
If it's
Well, you
just
got
one
one
trailer on that 20 acres, that's fine, that's what you're being
Ain't but
assessed.
one.
Okay, that's fine.
That's it, just one.
that, but we're tracking more than just one, okay? Right.
Ain't but one on that, ain't
Ain't number
What's it 231?
one trailer?
one trailer.
What's it 235?
I have no idea. That don't belong, that's not us.
That's what we're trying to get figured out, right? So listen here, we're gonna work with you to get your new mobile home on the site. But we gotta clean it up where there's clear, distinct identity on whose stuff is where. Does that make sense? So that's what I need you guys to work with our building department, to be sure that you're putting your new mobile home that you've got financed or taken care of
At 231 Bragg Street.
on the proper property. Does that make sense?
So we gotta get surveyors to come in and survey it.
Well, I think you need to work with them. They're gonna give you advice on how to do it. I just need you to work with them to get it done. We're gonna allow you to continue on your grandfathered use and get the mobile home there.
Yeah, that could be a way to do it. If everybody in the family, everybody who is an heir of John Blow has to be identified. And really, the only way to do that officially is through a court proceeding, is through Chancery Court. There's an heirship determination that needs to be made. Who are the heirs of John Blow? And those are listed and put
What
in a
if the
court
will-
order.
What if the will states that?
Well, if there is a will, and that will is valid, and it can be probated in Chancery Court, yeah. It doesn't do
We
it
don't
good.
do
We're not
it.
doing it. We're not
We
doing
don't do
it.
that.
The wheel, right?
Has it ever been probated? Has it ever been presented to the Chancery Court of
Yes,
Rankin
it's been
County?
filed.
Is there an order determining heirs? Is there a judgment admitting the will to probate? Is there an order dispersing the assets of the estate of John Blow? Do you have copies of those documents?
Or
That
do you
would
just
be
have
the
a- or do you-
determining factor.
Or do you used to have a will?
You got the wheel.
If you just have a will and it hadn't been, this stuff has not been done,
A judge
it
has
still
to.
could
it's
be
gotta be processed,
contested.
basically.
It still
Yeah.
could be contested. What he's-
So
I think what he's trying to say.
we just want you to clean up the paperwork around it, right, and the property, so it's there when you're putting your stuff on it, right?
Yeah, Just trying to help you.
So that's the communication you need to have with Miss Renee's office, okay? They're gonna work through all that. if there's something, the flags that come up, then they're gonna direct you back into the right legal stance to get your property cleaned up, to put, not, and I say cleaned up on paper, to put your new mobile home there. You don't wanna put it on something that's not yours, on paper. I understand what you're telling me, we're just trying to help you get it straight.
Further to that, we don't need to issue a permit
Until
for
it's done.
property that these
Right.
folks don't own.
That's the problem. So once we get the paperwork set through this office, then we're gonna work with you to
What
get
if
your
we
mobile
get,
home.
her mother to sign a waiver
Yeah, I
that's
don't,
saying that we could put it there?
yeah, I don't even know that it's a
claim
waiver.
Is
She
her
would-
mother the one who, the
Yeah,
will,
sign for the other one to go
is
there.
her property by herself now?
Patricia Jones is
Patricia.
only a part
Yeah.
owner of this property. She is a part owner
Did she
of
sign
the
for
property.
y'all to put the other one
Yeah, she signed for us to put the other trailer there.
Okay, and I guess that's the thing, all the parties have to agree to put a piece of property on their property. I
She
mean,
can
it's a whole
give
bunch
you
of
authority
stuff,
for
but-
her portion.
Yeah, you
but
gotta
she
go through the
does
whole
not
group
own it
law.
all.
But that is her portion though.
Now, it's not, according to what I have read through, it's never been divided,
It's 22 acres, is what I'm saying. She have 2 acres of her own.
okay?
So that is her portion.
Okay.
Well,
Two
it's
acres,
not
like-
being tracked in our records, guys, as a segregated
That's what
2-acre
I'm saying.
parcel belonging to
We just
Ms.
gotta identify it
Jones.
and get the paperwork properly put, and once we get it identified, you can put your mobile home there, right? So that's, we gotta get it right. You don't wanna put it somewhere you can't put it. That's, we're just trying to help you. That make sense? Here's what I need you to do from here. Is work, be sure they've got your contact stuff, your information. They're gonna give you a process to go through. We gotta validate some stuff. Until it gets validated, you can't put your mobile home there. They can't allow you to do it. Does that make sense? So we just gotta clean it all up paperwork wise. Be sure you have access to the property you wanna put it on. Once they get that cleared up, then they're gonna let you put your mobile home there. Okay? Does that make sense? All right,
All right, thank y'all.
thank you.
All right, next in.
Hey,
pub-
be sure, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
be sure they get, you got contacts? Be sure they got your contact
I have her
information.
number.
Okay, you got it, okay.
I got him. What's your name?
My name is Ronnie Deere, and I'd like to address the board today about the waste management fees. We own like 17 properties in this Rankin County.
Give your address.
And-
if you
Yeah,
don't mind.
where do you live at,
Where
Mr. Ronnie?
do you live?
Can-
Give your address and all, where you live.
My name is Ronnie Deere. I live at 3995 Highway 49 South, Florence, Mississippi. And me and my wife, we own like 32 properties all over the state. But every time I go to, we used to go down to the energy, and they would give us a thing that says the electricity's been off since 2015, so we wouldn't have to pay the waste management bill. Now that COVID has hit, there's no one to contact to get this information. So I went over to the tax collector and asked him to please make a phone call, and in 5 minutes, they could tell them that electricity ain't been on since 2015. She says, my people are too busy to do that. So I had to wind up paying $2,400. Nobody's lived there since 2015. I cut the grass, it was this high, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I have no way to prove that there has not been any electricity, because I used to go down here and say, Kenneth, I need paperwork showing when the last time the electricity was on. And he'd say, okay, and he'd print me out this thing. I'd bring it down here, and they'd say, well, Mr. Ronnie, you don't owe anything. There's not been anybody living in this property since 2015. Now, I have no. One time I came and she says, oh, you gotta go in front of the attorney. I go over to the attorney, I bring paperwork showing there was no water on the bill, on the property for X amount of years. He said, what are you doing in here? He said, go
That's
tell
not
him that
me,
you owe
by the
nothing.
way. That's
Well,
your
you're
solid
right.
waste. That's
Yeah.
your solid waste
So all I
legal
ask
counsel.
is that y'all make a way for, you know, like, we buy foreclosures, that's all we do. And like on Tazan right now, they have not had any electricity since 2015. The grass was this high. I cut all that, cleaned it up and everything. Haven't got the electricity back on. I had it cut completely away from the, because there was no electricity, but there was, you know, I didn't want it to the pole so I could work on the house and everything. But I cannot get any energy until either I pay the $2,400.
Mr. Ronnie, excuse
Yes.
me. Did you go to the whoever who's providing power to the home and try to get a
Yes.
paper saying,
I
hey, it's
used to
been,
go down here on 80.
and you can't do that no more?
For 20 years, they've got the door locked now because of COVID. You can't walk in, you can't make a phone call. You call Energy, they say, Rankin County has to call us. So I go to the tax collector, she says, our people are too busy to do this. I'm sorry, you gotta pay the bill or you won't get electricity.
Well,
So I write the check. The other day, one of my renters, I bought a place on Barker over here. He needed electricity. He took a bush hog out there, because it's 9 acres land and bush hogged. It was deep.
all right, let's get
So
to
he
the,
paid
let's,
$400.
let's get to the, what can we do to get energy?
Thank you.
Do some kind of
We can make
form.
contact with them and ask them if, you know, if they're not gonna have a location here in Rankin County where they service the customers, tell us so that we can direct people, where can they come to secure the information that they need about power supply?
Wait a minute now.
We need-
Tax
we need
collector
Entergy.
one time over there, they called in 5 minutes. They took care of it. All they had to do was make one phone call, and the lady on the other end said, it hasn't had any electricity since
Mr. Deere,
2000.
we have the same trouble that you have now with
Yes.
Entergy. They don't take our phone calls now either.
Really?
So we'll have to deal directly with Entergy to try to find out who exactly local is an Entergy representative who will service the customers in Rankin County. I'd like to find that information out from them.
Thank
But
you so
we're having a
much.
hard time getting them to talk to us or cooperate with us about anything.
Well, all I know is I came in one day over here, and the lady made a phone call.
Well, this is
and-
a new day. Give us the addresses. If you write the addresses down on a piece of paper, and we'll try to help you out.
Of the addresses that we want the energy turned on. At this point, I don't want any. I just want to address this so that I don't have to come, every time I come up here, I pump money next door for something because I need it at that point in
I
time.
got you. All right.
You've already
But,
paid
like,
it now. so
when
you
I
don't
buy
need it
these
now.
properties, they're a disaster.
I
But I
understand.
make them livable. I bought one for $44,500 in Rolling Hills. I sold it for $180,000 the other day because I make it livable. I'm helping Rankin County because taxes go up.
We appreciate your help, and we're
And-
gonna do what we can to,
We'll
get
try
this
to get you a-
ratified. We're
we'll
gonna
try to get you
I
an
never
Entergy
had to
point
do
of
this
contact.
up until COVID hit.
Right,
And I
well, we hadn't
understand
either.
it's a problem for everybody.
Yeah.
But it is really a problem for
Yeah.
us.
Thank you for making us
You-
aware of it.
If you'll make sure that these folks right over here to your left
Yes, ma'am.
have your
Yes, sir.
name and telephone number, we will provide you with the information we get.
Okay, I'm gonna
From
give you
Entergy.
two numbers, is that
All right,
okay?
give it to Ms. Renee
Thank
over
you
there.
so much, I appreciate it.
All right, do I have a, Edwin, if you'd like to come on up, please, sir. If you want to speak on behalf of this.
I do, yes. My name is Edwin Salas, and I am here on behalf of Pebble Creek Investment Company in its capacity as manager. In December of '22, just a few short months ago, Pebble Creek Investment Company acquired the balance of the platted, developed lots within the Pebble Creek subdivision.
This is Stonebridge.
It is. This is Pebble Creek Phase One within Stonebridge. Subsequently, after acquiring those lots, we entered into a purchase and sale agreement and ultimately sold those lots just a few weeks ago. Immediately after the closing, home plans were submitted to the county for their approval, which are currently being reviewed to date. It is also my understanding that there were concerns that the plans which were submitted, the square footage sizes were not congruent with the current housing inventory at Pebble Creek. The parties that were involved did meet with Mr. Calhoun yesterday morning and Mr. Slay and several other representatives from the county. And we believe, based on that conversation and that meeting, that we have derived a plan that, well, is essentially identical to the existing home plans that are out there. Mr. Keith provided me a list of the square footages and the number of homes that were in that square footage range. And so we've mimicked that, and I've created a plan here that we'd like to submit that it's my understanding that we could possibly get to the permitting department, that they could review based upon when the plans were submitted, that they did meet those square footage requirements.
Kind of just to educate the board on,
What's it now?
at a high level, the basics of what the plan includes, so that they are clear about how it's being laid out. Edwin, just tell them a little bit about the plan.
So, if I understand your question, Mr. Slay, the plan that's submitted in front of you now, well, yeah, and I may be getting ahead of myself, but when the housing was originally built, and I realize these were covenants, the minimum square footages were set at 1,500 square feet. And though there was a range of square footages that were built, the new average that exists in Stonebridge is a little bit over 1,600 square feet. Based on the housing that is there in place now, you will see that you'll see at the very bottom, there's a legend that outlines the number of houses and the minimum square footages for that legend color. And then those legend colors are simply indicated on the map. So we're at 1,598. I'm hoping that you'll give me the 2 square feet, that we will get an average of 1,600 square feet out there. Now, in all fairness, we did remove the first 2 that were on Keith's report that he provided me, but those were outliers in the sense that those were 2 model homes that were built initially when the development opened.
Edwin, are
Yes,
these
sir.
the ones that you're proposing, or are these existing?
The ones that are there are vacant lots that were proposed to be built on, yes.
Okay.
In white.
Is this,
White has current
Okay,
houses,
that's
so
what
just
I
the
was
color
thinking.
codes are what's being proposed. And so my understanding, and this is just an offer, that we would submit this plan, and this is a blueprint, and it may be subject to change. This is my color coding and my understanding of lot widths. So this is just not happenstance. I mean, I took great care and thought in placing the square footages on each individual lot, but that when a permit is pulled, you can reference this map or a spreadsheet and see what minimum is applied to that lot.
is this heated?
That's exterior to exterior. Not including garage, yes, heated and
That's what I
cooled,
said,
not
heated.
including garages or porches.
We go, I go by heated when you say 15, 18.
But that is, yeah, that's heated and cooled, but married,
Not
but
including the garage.
with brick.
So Edwin, what it looks like is that the lots that have some dimensional challenges to them,
Correct.
you pick those off for the smaller houses, and then from there, you've segregated it into larger
I did,
and larger square footages where the lots dimensionally would allow for a larger construction house.
That is correct.
All right. Was any consideration given to immediately adjacent properties? This would have taken a lot more time than I think than you had. But for instance, are we possibly going to situate a 1,400 square foot house immediately adjacent to a house that has 1,800 feet?
I did not take that into account.
Okay.
No, sir.
So we may want to just look at just an extra peek to see if there's going to be a measurable impact. And I'm looking at a couple of lots that are proposed for 1,400, where we would want to look at, because they're immediately adjacent to a lot that has construction already on it. So we'd want to look at that.
Talking about this one right, these 2 right here that are so tiny, they all need to be combined.
Right here.
What
Well,
I'm
that's
talking about
that's
is,
a
Yeah,
line.
but I'm looking, that's what I'm saying,
That's
see
a
right
just-
here with this one?
Yeah, but that's just like a property line or something, or the.
Okay, maybe,
the
okay,
section
they're
line
not
or
2
something.
different lots.
that's a second.
Okay.
The, if I might add, and just make a comment regarding to that, and I know we had discussions on this yesterday, but please keep in mind that this is an R1C with a PUD overlay, which is very similar to maybe the TND type zoning within the city of Brandon, which tries to incorporate a unit mix of houses by mixing those housing sizes together.
Right.
Edwin, I mean, I did get a message yesterday, a text, and saying that y'all could possibly get the average up to 1,700 square feet, but also be able to build something that's, say, a minimum of 1,500 square feet. I mean, is that,
Well, I was communicating that. I'm not certain where that message came from. again, we were just we wanted to be consistent with the existing housing inventory that's out there. And basically, this is a mirror image of what's there. It is identical.
I like the text message that I got yesterday better than I like this, and I'm gonna let Mr. Armstrong speak on.
But if I could say this, and just all we're asking is that, and you well know, because Jay, I'm certain you know, I mean, this has been going on for over 15 years.
I'd love to see it
Yes.
finished out.
And I'm happy to report, and I hope this is okay to say in public, but there are pre-sales right now, or a pre-sold at $184 per square foot. So please let that sink into, just for a minute. So anyway, I just ask, look, help us. We've come this far. We're just trying to get this ball rolling again. I've said my, thank you.
Mr. Armstrong, would you like to come forward and speak?
Basically, whatever Mr. Edmonds, what was requested, the message that I sent you is what me and Brad had talked about, but I don't know if it's a dispute, communication there or what.
Can I speak?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Mr. Armstrong is involved with us, but his involvement really just came into the picture of reaching out to you guys. He's involved in the process, but hasn't gone through the actual development of picking plans and looking at layouts. With those lot dimensions of 55 feet across and the setbacks, we're really at a struggle of what you can squeeze into those. I'm not a public speaker, and I certainly don't envy the job that you guys have. When I think about the prayer that Mr. Slay said there of the officials that we're praying for, we've got to continue to be able to provide housing for the teachers, the police officers, the first responders. They can't all afford these $350,000, $400,000 homes, and that's truly what we're trying to provide. And we followed every step along the way to try to be able to go into this following all the rules that were set forth that we had. So we're just simply asking that you guys have the consideration that we're putting a plan in place that I feel is a happy margin for all different sizes of houses, because we need different products within the county as well. We don't all need to be building 1,800 square feet houses. Many folks need the opportunity to buy what's in their budgets. The biggest thing I would say in my business is the interest rates have just killed what the purchasing power is of a lot of our buyers. 7% interest rates versus 3%, they could buy a lot more house, but that's not the economy or the climate that we're in right now.
But it could change within 2 years.
This development will be built out by then is our hope, and all of us as a community will be benefiting.
It's bad timing right now.
Hopefully they can refinance. Mr. Burleson, tell them who you are and give them your address, please, for the record.
Sure. My name is Brad Burleson. I live 141 Beatrice Lane, over off Baker Lane area. My affiliation, I'm part of the building group, but I also am a real estate broker locally, and I think that's where I can really speak to you guys of the value. When we first had a meeting, it was concerns of what does this do to property values within the neighborhood? It really is just shocking to me that that would be the number one concern, because when you look at new development coming into an established neighborhood, it is day one going to drag those pre-existing homes upward. They will see an increase of their equity in their home the day that we sell a home. And I'm talking upwards of $20 a square foot typically. Right now, off of memory, the average square foot home that has sold in Stonebridge is about $160 a square foot. And as Edwin said, we're already under contract at $184. Our plans may not fit every buyer in the market. So there will be folks that come into the neighborhood and they very likely might want to buy a pre-existing home that someone's ready to move out of. Well, that is going to benefit those property owners immediately because of the comps that we're setting. So it's going to benefit the entire neighborhood, along with the activity of just getting the vacant lots going. But I'm happy to answer any questions. I certainly appreciate you guys.
So do y'all have a list, like you did here, Edwin, of the existing homes?
Well, anything in white is going to be the existing home, and then.
But do you have a breakdown of what's there?
He does, in fact, well, he really isn't going to tell you anything, I'm afraid, now that I think about it.
Okay.
But this is the report that shows the existing homes that are out there, but you'll notice that we mimic this.
Okay.
So that's what we built based off of.
Okay.
So what's out there right now, Edwin, just help the guys, what's out there right now would range from a low of about $1,480
Pretty much.
Correct. Up to a high, let's forget the outliers, up to a high of what?
A little over 19.
19, all right. So what's out there right now, guys, is, I'm talking about existing construction, is basically just shy of 1,500 up to just above 1,900. And so it does appear that the distribution of proposed lots down here, if you look at the legend, would mimic the distribution of existing housing in the development, okay? So, one thing we've tried to do, can I ask one question that's kind of a logistical question? Part of the issue that we've had here, and it's nobody's fault, but part of the issue that I think we've had here is we didn't know who we were supposed to be dealing with. Okay.
We've been in the blind.
I really need to know. Do you two guys, can you two guys say to these guys up here that whatever decision needs to be made, y'all, the two of you, or some collection can actually agree to it? And we won't keep getting phone calls telling us we ain't got no agreement? Okay. I want to, if we're going to have an opportunity to get to a resolution, I want to make sure that we've got folks standing in front of us that can bind the parties in interest to the agreement, okay? So I'm comfortable then. This development, as you guys know, accesses water and sewer facilities through the city of Brandon. This development, I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth here, I'm not making any suggestions of any kind. This development is in the path of growth for the city of Brandon. So as a result of those issues, we have attempted to keep the city heavily involved in these discussions and up to date as to what's going on. They're very interested, as well as us, in how this is ultimately going to get developed out. And so I'm thankful that the mayor and his new community development director are
Sam
here
Hawkins.
today. Yeah, Mr. Hawkins, thank you for being here along with the mayor. I don't know if you guys have
I'd love to hear from them if they would like to speak on this. And
Mayor?
would y'all like to make a comment?
If you like your feedback, it's in your city.
No, it's in the county.
It's right there.
Where's the board attorney going off to? You're supposed to be standing over here, sir.
Man, I'm empty on coffee, and that's a dangerous thing. I'll be right back.
Absent conversation, number one, I came here and told you to begin with, one of the reasons why those lots are attractive is because all the water and sewer infrastructure is already there. So that investment's not having to be made. We do have an influence over that, though, because we care about those people who live there. Last time I spoke to you in general about this, and I haven't looked at this, and Sam will spend some time studying it too, is concern for the people that live there. And I know it's a lot of difference between, let's say you owned a home, Jay, that had 1,600 square feet, 1,650, something like that. And for us, it's a red flag going off. If Brad wants to come in and build a house that's 1,300 feet and your backyards match up, well, you would have some concerns about that, having properties like that bordering you on your property, because you would have the opinion that it would influence your property value. So we care about those people infinitely, because all those people work in Brandon, live in Brandon, go to school in Brandon. That's the reason why they chose to live there to begin with. So for us, it's protecting the people that live there, their property values. That's primary. Protecting our infrastructure that's there and our water and sewer lines is primary. I understand the dilemma that they're in, and it kind of sounds like, without being involved in any discussions yesterday or studying this to any depth, it kind of sounds like the conversation's going to, you have found some resolution.
Well, I don't think we're gonna.
This is the first
You're
I've
migrating
seen it,
toward
so
it?
yeah.
We haven't made any kind of
It's the
decision,
first time
and I
I've
mean,
actually seen it.
I'm not prepared to make a decision
Yeah,
at this moment.
I'm gonna
I'd like
study
for
this
y'all
for
to
a little
look
while,
at it
yeah.
and see if that's something that.
But
you'd
this
like to
looks
see a
like, what they
change.
presented us looks like what's out there, though. It doesn't seem to be a change in the neighborhood, from what they
Correct.
present, what's there.
Mine,
I know when this came up earlier, it was, 1,300 across the board, and that, for us, that was clearly, you can't do that to those people that have invested.
Agree.
The same thing when you talk about it, and I'm sensitive to that too, when you talk about school teachers or a nurse or a firefighter or a police officer, I'm sensitive to that too. The other side of that equation though is, you've probably got the same people living in there that invested their lives in that property that live there. So it's incumbent upon elected officials and boards to protect those that are already there, not those that may be coming. Does that make sense?
If I can also add one thing to what the mayor is saying, this is a unique situation for us. Thankfully, we don't find very many developments that began life in 2006 and are restarting life in 2023. You've got a 15-year gap between significant development activity and renewed development activity. And where the county, the position that the county has taken consistently is where there is that much of a gap in development activity, it is not appropriate for the decisions that were made in 2006 to automatically be cast upon this current board to operate as if we still have to operate like it's '06. Well, interest rates are not the same, costs of materials are not the same, the school district is not the same. There's a running ton of issues that this board has got to address to make sure that this new development activity, which is unique because it's going right in beside existing development activity, there's no separation here, it's the same development. We got to make sure that there's consistency. So what I'm encouraged by is that there is a strong effort that has been made by the stakeholders with the property to figure out a way to duplicate what's there. That, to me, that seems like an appropriate way to try to address this. Where we still have some concerns is that even though there's only 5, that low end piece at 1,400 makes us nervous. It's the same difference as charging me $100.02 for something or charging me $99.99. I'm gonna feel a lot better if you charge me $99.99. Get me to 1,500 on the bottom end and I can go. You're giving up 5 lots. But get me to 1,500 and I feel better about life. And by the way, another reason why that makes sense to me is the original restrictive covenants applicable to the development that's out there had minimum square footages of 1,500. Now I don't have a person that lives out there right now that can come to me as a board lawyer and say, what are you doing? I made them build to the standards that you bought at. You bought your house with minimums at 1,500 and you knew that the guy next to you could be in a 1,500 square foot house. So I made him get to those minimums. You don't have an argument with me anymore. So if they have an argument at 1,400.
Mr. Mayor, let me ask you one question. On this is here, I'm assuming, this is the first I've seen it here in the last few minutes. They have an HOA? Do
Not
they have an HOA?
formed
They
yet.
don't
It's
have,
not
so
a
they don't have an HOA.
functioning
Okay.
one, Daniel.
But y'all have gotten feedback from the residents in that area, right? That's kind of where your approach is coming back from.
And we haven't been, no city has been insulated from what you're talking about right now. I just tell you, after '08, banks do not want to own property. We face this with Heartsease, we faced it with Hastings, Ambiance, Cornerstone, Spears Crossing, and you find ways to work with those who come after these crises that happen in life. These oscillating things over time, financial problems, and you find solutions to create a pathway to something better. And I think that's kind of where you're at now. You're at I believe you've got capable people, and I believe they're willing to work with you, and I really appreciate you giving us time to add a little input to that.
Can I ask one other question, gentlemen, that just occurred to me? Thank you, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate it very much. My
Appreciate
question
it.
won't be directed to the mayor. Do y'all have any questions of the mayor before we release him? Okay, so this would be a question to you guys, Edwin specifically. You've got one that you told me about that you got in the contract. What is the square footage on that one? 1484?
Yeah, and that was one of the questions I was gonna ask the board, just talking about these high 1400s, where we'll be at. They're certainly not right on the border of 14, it's the border of 15. what would a board member think that retail price is? Because that's really where the affordability comes in. I think it would shock you what a 1475 house would actually go for, right? And that's the one, that's a nurse, single mom nurse that's under contract at that home, and that's all that she can afford. And then just to the mayor's comment, I get 100% what he's saying. I think it would be hard for any of us, and I'm in this world, to look at a 1,300 square foot home and pick out the difference between that and a 15, or carry that up to scale, 15, 16. It's just not different to see that 50 feet that we're talking about.
Yeah. So you're looking at, you know, like a 1480, that's gonna probably take out about 250, isn't it?
264, I believe, is where we landed at.
264, all right. So you're really starting to stretch those when you get,
I guess that's kind of my question on the same side, and you know the real estate market, I don't,
sir.
but you've got a group of people willing to pay $275,000 basically for a 1,400 square foot house?
All day long. And I would go back to the mayor's comment a couple weeks ago when he was in front of you guys, shopping for his son, right? We all have family members that are wanting to move in their community that they're just not quite yet for that step-up home. And that was my argument a few minutes ago, that we need other products. We need options for folks that might want to move out of Stonebridge into the next home, or we get a lot of folks that are downsizing from larger homes. We just need variation, and truly with the lot sizes, we're working with the grapes that we have at like 55 feet wide. We're not trying to impose any downside to the residents of Stonebridge. I think you're gonna see some excitement. I wish there was time to bring those folks in, because the comments we've had have been very positive.
it sounds like you may want to think about setting the arrangement so that we say, for instance, you know, we want to see the bottom end be 1,500, but we're willing to work with you in that plus or minus 10% range.
We're only talking 5 homes though, right?
That's right. We're really only talking about 5.
Give me the 5, everything else stays above it. Those just become our entry point to the development. That becomes our entry point for those few buyers that we're discussing that just are topped out at 270, 260, whatever that number becomes. But
how many of y'all gonna try to build at one time? Are you gonna try to develop all of this out? And if these homes are sitting there, what's your next step? If you're not selling these homes, are you gonna start renting them out?
not the plan at all. These are built for retail.
Will that be in writing?
Yeah, but they
Sorry?
will be.
Will that be in writing,
Some of
that
them
you will
will
not
be
be
rented.
for rent?
We have no plans to rent these homes. We are
Will
retailing
that
these
be in
homes.
writing?
You got no claim.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's in the covenants, gentlemen. Go ahead.
A limited amendment was filed prohibiting renting or leasing in Stonebridge prior to this contract.
Okay.
So again, sir, our plan is to sell them, but I don't anticipate us having to hold these homes. That's one of the reasons behind the popularity of this development, is we're hitting a niche of where we need to be building. I don't want to be holding $600,000 homes. That's not the market we're in right now.
So you still intend to put all the amenities in a 1,500 square foot as you do the 1,800 square foot, right?
You walk in the door, I don't think you would be able to tell me the difference between 14 and 16 because it will look exactly the same. Counters, floors,
We're looking at
pictures.
15.
One less bedroom, I would imagine.
There are 3 and 4 bedroom plans. They're
Right.
they're again
Small.
varied based off of what my lot dimensions are.
Edwin, did Ben make the rental prohibition applicable to himself? Is he prohibited?
Well, us as the, excuse.
Yeah. I'm saying Ben, I mean the LLC. It is,
Sure. No, as part of the settlement, there were, declarant rights assigned to Pebble Creek. And so those rights that the declarant has discretion. And that is they are based upon, very similar to the language that I believe the city was proposing in if somebody gets called to service, hardship, reasons, and so forth. So it has been a while since I've read the language, so I can't speak
Right.
completely to it. But
yeah, but I just want to make sure that the new property owners are burdened with the same covenants on a rental prohibition as the bank entities appear to be.
right, I don't believe there was any language in there about having to own it for a year before you could lease it. We just simply said no leasing, period.
Right, okay.
All right.
I don't see how you can stop somebody from renting.
Yeah, so it's going to come down to whether or not the covenants themselves, as far as the rental prohibition, can be enforced.
I don't know
But
if
that's
you'd
not our
even-
bag.
I don't know if you'd even know it.
It's, our bag is to make sure we try to protect the folks that are out there as much as we can. And I think the plan in front of you guys is and this is me editorializing, gentlemen, y'all don't have to agree with it, but this appears to be a very strong first step in the right direction towards a solution that protects the folks that are out there.
And if I could just add the hardship that it puts us in, we're $750 a day just holding these lots at this point. And I can understand you guys wanting to make a educated decision, but this is something that is of utmost importance to us just to get the ball rolling, because we're 5 months down the road from being able to do anything. That's just the construction time.
Yeah, and my only take on that is I just now saw it. So
Give
I
us
just need the
a
next
little
board
bit.
meeting. I mean, that's 2 weeks, a week and a half.
Yeah, make a decision.
So I can't vote on something I hadn't seen yet till now. I mean, you gotta
What can I
understand.
provide you to help make that a little easier for you? I mean, by the next time, what can I provide you?
Well,
If I may say something,
just let me get some questions. And
But
I'll
is
be
this
glad to ask you, yeah.
I was under the impression that this was really not a board decision
No, it's
as
not a
much as
board
it was
decision
a
right this
permit.
moment. That's
Yeah.
right.
And these permits have been submitted. We're just kind of waiting. The plans have already been put into the planning office.
I tell you one problem that I see, and that's just putting it out there, we've held others to a larger square footage than this. And then they, so then we gotta look at repercussions that we get from, well, you're letting them do this. You didn't let us do this.
That's right.
And then they come up with another plan, say, oh, cool, you let them do this, that's what we're doing.
Now, in
New
fairness,
development, I
Jared,
assume?
let me address Jared's point, because I think this is an excellent point that needs to be made right now, and Jared just put his finger on it. That the reason that we can entertain this request and be able to have a passable explanation for everybody else is, this is an existing
I
development
understand.
with existing housing stock. And the vast majority of those conversations that you're talking about, Jared, are with folks that are starting fresh
Right.
with a raw piece of land, and no houses are out there, and we are trying to set a pattern on the front end. The pattern's already been set.
I understand that.
Right
We
here.
also got some that have not set theirs in stone. When they see this, they're gonna back up.
No, I agree, we will have, I just think we gotta put our big boy pants on and
Right.
deal with that as it
I'm
comes.
just saying, you gotta understand from the other side, some that
Yeah,
we deal with.
we will
Not just
definitely
your
get
situation.
requests that will look very similar to what we're looking at here, out in unincorporated county. Now, places where they don't have sewer access, we're not gonna be dealing with this, okay? But that there will be the times, I'm looking at Mr. Cross and his area out there that has access to sewer facilities. We'll get requests out there, to try to mimic this or follow this development pattern. And so they need to be thoughtful and considerate about whether or not we want to say yes, even to just 5 lots that are gonna be 1,400. Do they want to say that?
I'm not against you, I was just giving you thoughts that we have to think about, so.
Sitting here right this moment, I cannot give you an answer because I want to discuss this with the mayor and the other guys, but you will have an answer quick.
Okay,
Is that-
thank you.
Is that good enough for you?
That's
All right.
perfect. Thank you.
Let's move it. Mayor wants 15.
All right, is there anyone else here would like to speak on public comment? There are a few more names.
Up here.
All right, if not, we're gonna move forward to old business. Minutes approved for March the
So
6th.
move.
Motion made by Mr. Morrison, second by Mr. Gaines. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carried. All right, consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion made by Mr. Gaines, second by Mr. Morrison. Any discussion on consent agenda? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Tax assessor, Mr. John Sullivan.
I'll handle that, Mr. President.
All right,
Petitions to adjust the 2022 homestead exemption supplemental roll.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Mr. Morrison. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Miss Bridget. Good morning.
First item this morning, I'm asking for authority to request proposals for the lawn maintenance contract. It expires May 15th.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bishop, and second by Mr. Morrison.
Yep.
Any discussion? Not all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
The next item, requesting authority to advertise for proposals for the household hazardous waste collection.
Motion approved.
Second.
All right, motion made by Mr. Morrison, second by Mr. Bishop. Any discussion? Not all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
I do have a quick question.
All right.
This is gonna be a quick turnaround because the collection day is gonna be in May 20th. Is the board gonna meet on April 14th or the 17th? Do you know yet?
The 14th.
Okay, that's when we'll plan to open them then.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, thank you. Mr. Mike Harrison.
Try to be quick, got ceasefire 2 permits, one's, be Spillway and one's Old Fannin Road, ceasefire. One's a District 2.
And a District 5.
Yes, sir.
Do I have a motion to approve both of these?
Motion.
Motion made by Mr. Gaines,
Second.
second by Mr. Bishop. Any discussion? Not all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
Thank you.
Motion carried. Engineering Services. Good morning, sir.
Morning, gentlemen. I have 3 things today. The first thing is we need approval for subcontract number 4 for Mississippi Paving and Construction for the state aid project SAP 6119M.
Where's that at? Shell? Yeah, man, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gaines. Yeah. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Next, we have a final plat approval for Mulligan Place, and that's in District 1.
I make a motion to approve that, and, Scott couldn't be here. He sent me a message why anyway, he can't be here.
All right.
So I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that motion. Any further discussion? Not all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Finally, we have a final plat approval for Liberty Landing Phase 2 that's been amended. That's in District 4.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll
Second.
second that myself. Any discussion? Not all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried. All right,
Thank you.
Mr. Slay.
Gentlemen, Mr. President, I think items A through E will be to set a public hearing for March the 30th.
Yes, sir.
For each of those, if I could get a motion to combine A through E and approve, that'd be great.
I make a motion.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Morrison, second by Mr. Gaines. Any discussion? Not all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
Mr. President, the next 2 items are also to set public hearings. You see the date there?
Yeah,
We need
one
to
for-
Combine those last 2 there.
One for April the 3rd and one for April the 14th.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize they were different dates. My bad. Let's do item F, please.
I'll make a motion to set that for April the 3rd.
Second.
Second by Mr. Morrison. Any discussion? Not all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Same thing on item G, please.
Motion approved on
Second.
item G. Second by Mr. Morrison. Any discussion? Not all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right.
Mr. President, item H is a public hearing on a conditional use permit. The first item is a public hearing for Warren and Taylor May, a conditional use permit for 368 Burnham Road South. It's a District 3 property. We will open that public hearing. Warren and Taylor May are seeking a conditional use permit to construct a new home with metal siding at 368 Burnham Road South. This is a 10.4 acre parcel. It is zoned RE1. RE1 does not allow for a metal exterior. The home will be 300 feet off of the property line. It contains 1,989 square feet of living space. So there is a request for conditional use to allow for the metal siding exterior. We will open that public hearing. At this time, I will ask if there is anyone here to speak in opposition to the Warren and Taylor May conditional use permit request. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition on that matter?
Have we had anyone to call
No.
with concerns?
No
Okay.
calls.
And I hadn't heard anything either, so.
All right. It does not appear that there's anyone here to speak in opposition on that matter, Mr. President, unless you have questions of the applicant. It
I
would be
think we
appropriate.
seen everything the other day on the slide, and it looked like it's gonna be a beautiful home.
All right. At this time, it'd be appropriate to take action.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Mr. Morrison. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
Item I, Mr. President, is a public hearing on the Gwendolyn Friary conditional use permit at 1190 Trickenbridge Road. This is a District 4 property. We'll open that public hearing. Ms. Friary is seeking a conditional use permit to construct a new home with metal siding at 1190 Trickenbridge Road. It's a 4.88 acre parcel. It's zoned RE1, same situation. RE1 does not allow metal exterior. There's an existing home on the property that will be demolished. The home will contain 1,200 square feet of heated and cooled living space, and the shop/garage portion will contain 1,200 square feet. So at this time, that public hearing is open. I'll ask if there is anyone here to speak in opposition to the Gwendolyn Friary conditional use permit. Anyone to speak in opposition on that matter? Mr. President. Okay. I don't see anyone here to speak in opposition on that matter, Mr. President. Unless you guys have further questions, we can close that public hearing, and it would be appropriate to take action.
I make a motion to close it and approve it.
Second.
Second by Mr. Morrison. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Mr. President, item J is a public hearing on the Mark Allen conditional use permit with dimensional variance. This is 766 Highway 468. This is District 3 property. We will open that public hearing. Mr. Allen is seeking a conditional use permit to place an ice vending machine at Allen Supermarket located at 766 Highway 468. The ice machine will be located on the west side of the building. Mr. Allen is seeking a dimensional variance of 12 feet from the west side setback, which is 20 feet. And this is a 3-acre parcel. It's zoned C2. If I may, gentlemen, let me review with you the conditional uses that we typically place on these ice vending units, these standalone units. So these would be the conditions that the staff would propose be appended to the conditional use application if the board chooses to grant the conditional use application. First condition would be that the ice vending unit must be substantially connected to a concrete pad, rendered immovable and capable of withstanding wind speeds of at least 150 miles per hour. The second, the ice vending machine unit must be protected from potential vehicle impact by permanently installed steel or concrete bollards. The bollards must be painted so as to be visible to motorists. And that, obviously, that implies that where it is possible for vehicle traffic to impact the unit, that's where the protection needs to be. So it's kind of dependent on how it's going to be situated on the property. My understanding about this particular unit is it will be exposed to only one side.
Correct.
Where a vehicle might impact it. So we would expect
I think it's gonna be pretty much recessed back with the front of the
Yeah.
store.
Mhm.
I mean,
Only reason, I guess, something drove between the stores.
yeah.
Just be 2 pipe bollards is all it'll be.
Never underestimate the ability of motorists
I know.
to cause damage. The next item, and notice how careful I was in making that comment. The ice vending machine must meet all of the requirements of the American Disabilities Act for accessibility, and so we would expect folks that are disabled to be able to access this unit. No third-party advertising of any kind is permitted on or adjacent to the ice machine. The unit must be visibly well lit for safety purposes. That any areas around the unit must be kept clean of garbage and debris at all times. The conditional use permit will be approved exclusively for Mr. Allen's business. This conditional use permit cannot be transferred to any third party without this board's authorization for the transfer. Okay? And then typically in the past, we have asked for a 1-year time limit on the first conditional use permit that is secured so that it can be monitored and so that compliance with your conditions can be confirmed. If there's been no issue during that 1-year visit, we remove that condition and issue a permit that can stay in place in perpetuity at that point.
Okay.
So those would be the conditions that we would request be appended if the board is of a mind to grant the conditional use application. Did I ask if anyone was here to speak in opposition on that matter?
Not
Is anyone
yet.
here to speak in opposition on Mr. Allen's request?
They are
Anyone?
not.
Okay. Mr. President, I don't see anyone here to speak in opposition on that matter. Unless the board has questions or concerns, it would be appropriate to close the hearing and take action.
Well, I know Mr. Allen has spoke with his neighbors, and the neighbors are good with it, and he's even putting a privacy fence up between that and Collinwood Drive, so I hadn't heard any negativity on this situation. So I'm gonna make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second by-
With the conditions, Brad?
With the conditions, and that'd be my motion, and second by Mr. Morrison. Any further questions, discussion? Not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carried. All right,
Mr. President, item K, authorization to proceed with publication of notice to bidders related to our Highway 80 Neely Creek ARPA Stormwater Protection and Restoration Project. Authorization for the county administrator or other appropriate persons, firms, or corporations to do all things necessary to prepare the project for construction, and authority to issue payment for publishing the notice to bidders. This is a District 5 ARPA project.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
I second. I was wondering what your holdup was.
all right, motion made by Mr. Bishop, second by Mr. Morrison. Any discussion?
Well, I'd like to talk about it a little while.
Not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
I want to mention, with your favor, Mr. President, I'd like to mention my appreciation to the City of Pearl through their legal counsel for securing all of the appropriate rights of entry for this project. The city was gracious to undertake that responsibility, and they secured that for us at no cost to the county. And so we are very appreciative of that.
Okay.
Item L is a discussion of 2022 escaped personal property taxes that are associated with Gulf South Pipeline's customers. Y'all favor me just a second, I need to grab my materials. I see Ms. Christy Lewis here and Mr. Lance Cooper is here in the event that the board needs to hear further information about that. Gentlemen, this is further to our, what I'll call our wrangling and our litigation with Gulf South Pipeline concerning the matter of the natural gas cavern that is located adjacent to Airport Road, that is owned and controlled by Gulf South Pipeline, and into which Gulf South Pipeline extracts natural gas from the interstate pipeline and deposits the natural gas into the cavern, whereby it serves as in the nature of a warehouse facility for natural gas. They lease and or sell space in that cavern to customers who then have access to the natural gas that is contained in the cavern and being held by the warehouseman for use by those customers in varying degrees. We're not that interested in knowing exactly what the customers are doing with all that, but we are very interested, as we are with any customer that holds product, personal property, in Rankin County. We are very interested in knowing what they are holding, to what degree, and we are interested in to know what its value is on a given date so that we then can apply the appropriate personal property tax and send them a bill. And for many, many years, which is the subject of our litigation against Gulf South has refused to provide adequate information about who its customers are and how much natural gas is being stored on each customer's behalf on a given date. They just simply refuse to provide the information. When it became clear to Gulf South that they were going to have to answer to a court about their refusal, they decided to change course and provide some information. And so what we have done, and Ms. Lewis has worked tirelessly to make this happen, we have taken the information that we finally got from Gulf South, and we have attempted to communicate with the customers that they've identified with very mixed results. And so we have done everything that we can to try to get word to these customers. You need to report the appropriate information in accordance with state law to the Rankin County Tax Assessor's Office so that we can send you a tax bill and get you straight. So we've knocked it down now to one tax year that we are working on. So what I'm about to address with you only applies to one tax year, 2022. We took the most recent information provided by Gulf South. We made contact with the customers that we could make contact with very mixed results. And now we are starting the process of formally assessing all of the customers identified by Gulf South with an appropriate personal property tax assessment. And we need this board to recognize that as escape tax at a specific amount so that we can generate a tax bill and send that tax bill to these customers and demand payment. Okay? So that's the process we're in right now. Have I left anything out at this point? Okay. I have in front of me, and I am prepared, this is really just informative to you. You notice on here it's just discussion, right? So we're going to ask you to act formally at your first April meeting. This is discussion to let you know what's coming. So I have a list here that Ms. Lewis has put together for us that demonstrates, Christy, keep me straight, how many we got on here? About 7. We've got 70 customers. I'll just give you a little bit of a flavor of what we're dealing with here. These are companies that hold natural gas in the Gulf South Pipeline Cavern in Rankin County. Atmos Energy Corporation of Louisiana. They hold somewhere in the neighborhood, and this is a value, isn't it, Christy? Yes. This is our calculated value of the natural gas that they have in the cavern as of January 1, 2022. $281,238. Centerpoint Energy Resources Corporation, don't know where they're from, $23,011 in gas as of January 21. The city of Milton, Florida, $19,485. The city of Milton, Florida. BP Energy Company, ever heard of them?
I think so.
Yes, sir. $1.65 million worth of gas. Gentlemen, when you add up all 70 customers for just one tax year, $3.3 million in unpaid escaped personal property tax. That's one tax year. Again, when we address the board and ask you guys for permission to take things more seriously with Gulf South and their failure to provide us with adequate information, that's what we were talking about. That's every single year, going back until at least 2015, if not before, where customers holding gas in that cavern have not paid personal property taxes owed to Rankin County. It's been escaping every single year.
We had, if I remember, they had an argument that they were paying it through the state. And that we had, our fight was with the state. Has that been?
They like to think that what they tell the state through what's called a central assessment includes the gas in that cavern. What they told the state is, it's not our gas. Therefore, they have not been paying any tax on the gas in the cavern.
Okay. All right.
They hid behind their customers when they told Central, it's not our gas. And then they refuse to tell us who their customers are. They put us in the position of not being able to get the appropriate property tax paid from any source. They just hid their customers from us.
Good job, Christie.
We're gonna issue a tax bill for last year. Are we, what about the other years?
Those escape taxes, we are still calculating, and Ms. Christie and I are working to try to arrive at an appropriate way to handle that. We wanted to do this first to see what kind of reaction are we gonna get out of these customers? What kind of response? Is their first response gonna be, we're not taxable? We're not taxable, city of Milton, Florida. We're a city. You can't tax us. Oh, really? Number one, is that gas being used for a municipal purpose, or is this just investment activity? That's number one. If it's not being used for municipal purposes, they can't argue that it's tax exempt. And show me under the Constitution of the state of Mississippi where a city in Florida is exempt from paying Mississippi personal property taxes on property they are holding in Mississippi. They're not exempt under Mississippi law that I can find, or under constitutional law. Now, there may be some argument about comity or something like that that we've got to follow, but nonetheless, we intend to go after the payment of these taxes. It's a significant amount of money every single year that's walking out the door.
Yeah.
And, you know, you guys charge your staff with the responsibility, number one, follow the law and keep everybody straight, but number two, make the way that we do taxation in Rankin County be fair, applicable to everybody. We expect every business in Rankin County to pay its appropriate tax, personal property tax, for items of equipment and inventory, everything that's applicable. We expect them to pay, and the vast majority do. So that's the information. Do you have any questions? Can we provide you with any additional information that would be helpful to you? I think y'all got it.
That's great.
You understand what the situation is. I can't say enough good things about Chrissy especially, but Lance as well, in that office for going to bat and spending a ton of time trying to pull all this together and cobble it together. We're not done with Gulf South. That litigation is ongoing. We're waiting on the Supreme Court. I'm getting a little over my skis here talking about litigation in open board meeting, but we're waiting on the Supreme Court to rule on the venue issue, and then we'll know what the next step is with them. But I'm personally, I'm not done with them yet. We still have stuff we want to discuss. Okay?
All right.
Y'all have any questions at this point? All right, we'll have it teed up for you. I don't think this is gonna change, Christie. We'll have this teed up for you guys to authorize. Can y'all get me a signed version of this to have by April, by the first board meeting? Yeah. Yes, ma'am. If you can get me just a signed version of that so that we'll have that available to us when they approve it and authorize the levy and the issuance of the tax bill. Okay?
All right.
Any other questions on that? All right. I've got a couple of things under additional business, and I may have one executive session matter, unfortunately, gentlemen, I need to talk to you about.
All right. Mr. Hicks?
Good morning. Item A is acknowledge receipt of 851 homestead applications along with 54 amended homestead applications. Those were submitted by the tax assessor's office to the Chancery Clerk's office for the month of February.
Okay.
I'll make a
Motion to approve. Is that what we're doing?
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second then.
Second, Mr. Morrison.
Okay.
Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Additional,
Yes, sir. I do have one item of additional business. This relates to additional ARPA projects. We're asking the board to add this and if it's your will to approve it, but we're asking for authority to advertise 3 additional Rankin County Watershed Protection and Restoration Program elements, which 3 additional ARPA projects. They would be Holcomb Branch at Deer Valley Substation, Mountain Creek erosion mitigation, and the third one is bank stabilization at White Road. And those are all District 1 properties ready to be advertised. So if we could add that.
I'll make a motion to add this to the agenda. Second by Mr. Morrison. Do I have any discussion? Not, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Make motion approved.
I'll second that motion. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right.
And I do have one executive item.
Okay.
Executive session.
All right.
2.
All right. Any other additional
You got
business?
Uh,
Hey, real quick, while you getting your stuff together. Listen, the last board meeting, we were talking about the camper that's sitting on a public road on one of my streets. Dwayne can fill you in, and he's reached out to a couple of rollback haulers, and none of them are willing to haul this off because they're scared it's gonna fall apart and they can't get the slide ends in. So, I mean, with board approval, I'd like to give Mike Harrison the opportunity to just go out there and get rid of it.
Don't we need some kind of training exercise?
Yeah, they can learn how to run that grapple bucket and pick it up and set it in the back of that brush
I
truck.
was thinking maybe put a fire out.
Well, it's-
You got a lot of that cleaned up.
All right.
We are clearing an obstruction on county right of way. Is everybody clear about that?
Do we have to, what do we have
We've
to
already-
do?
we've
Somebody
already put
owns
the
it.
property owner on notice.
Okay.
He started doing a cleanup of sorts and then quit. He's fully aware, I think has been told.
He had
directly-
March.
Ain't cleaned up very much. Look at that.
March the 2nd was really when it was supposed to be gone, and I mean, it's still there. And of course, nobody wants
He hadn't
to,
done a whole lot.
a lot of the record service are not wanting to do, fool with
Can't
it.
imagine not being able to move if you can't get the, I know if you can't slide in, but, I mean, it's that bad? You couldn't even hook to it?
You can hook to it, their biggest concern is they're gonna haul it off.
They'll have it forever.
They'll have it forever and there's nobody to collect any money from
Oh,
them
gotcha.
for hauling
Yeah,
it off.
yeah, I got it.
They're gonna spend a half a day out there,
Right.
probably 2 records.
Yeah.
So do y'all have an issue with Harrison handling this job? County Road Department?
I don't.
I don't know if we have any other choice.
So we're gonna clean up the whole place then, aren't we? I mean, we got a lot of stuff scattered all around it.
The land that it's sitting on is our land.
It's a county road.
Is that a road?
That's a county
It
road.
looks like it's taking up the whole space.
It's right in the middle of the road.
Is it a dead end?
It's a dead end.
Oh, okay.
Do they own?
They don't own that road. They don't even own the property around that road. They
They
just
just
decided,
squatted.
they
They're
just
squatters.
squatted
They
right
found a
there
dead end
They
and parked.
helped themselves to our right of way.
and called and wanted their ditches cleaned out.
Oh, what?
No, that would be the next time.
Yeah.
But if no one has an issue with it, I'd like Mike to, and his crew, and we'll get some trustees out there to
What road is
get
it
that.
on? I'm just curious.
Jeanette,
Jeanette and Robin Hood.
a lot of those pictures now are right off the right of way, but all that wood that you see and there's a trailer with some metal on it behind the camper that is on the right of way.
All right, if y'all don't have it, we don't have to have a motion on it, do we, or do we need a motion to approve?
I would like for us to
All
go
right.
ahead in the minutes and have you guys authorize it. What you're doing is you're protecting the county public road. That's your authority.
I'll make a motion to add this to the agenda, for Mike Harrison to go out and protect our road right of way.
Second.
Second by Mr. Morrison.
Yeah.
All right, now I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Mr. Morrison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank
The
you.
other discussion part is if Craig makes sure it's all lawyered up, so that Mike don't get sued down the road.
We've done
I
everything that
think
we
the
supposed to
minutes
do,
are gonna be
putting
the
a
effective
notice.
piece.
Hey, Mike, don't we have something similar, where the guy's got he got a travel trailer garage stuck right out in the cul-de-sac, cul-de-sac. He just built a, travel trailer garage right in the cul-de-sac at the end of the road. That's where he parked his travel trailer.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get a notice on him.
Need to approve that one as well, Brad.
And
Can we do a motion to approve what you added just then?
Yeah, we approved it.
Okay.
We-
You got
Right.
it? You got it? Okay, good. My bad. Mr. President, are we prepared to move to a next item of additional business?
We are.
I want to bring this up. We got Mr. Bass here. This is something that we need to entertain discussion of for sure. And it'll depend on whether or not the board wants to act on it or not. But we have the matter of the Gunner Road Phase 2 bids that we received. Those bids for Gunner Road Phase 2 came in substantially higher than what was expected by literally just looking at the pricing on Phase 1 and applying the pricing on Phase 1 to the work activities and the materials and the labor and all on Phase 2. We expected a much lower bid amount. It came in substantially higher. And so what we've got to do is act. At the moment where we are positioned, we have received the bids from two bidders. They are both well out of the estimate. And so we need to know what are we going to do with the bids we have. And so that's the subject matter of the discussion that I would like to walk us through.
Is there an option of putting it back out for rebid?
Yes, sir. So there's always the option of rejecting those bids. That's the first step. We would need a motion to reject the bids presented because they are out of the money. With some authorization then and some thought process, well, what is the next step? And so the options that I think that have been most explored are revising the Phase 2 effort to shorten the distance, to segment Phase 2, as it were, and do a phase that would be within the money, and then receive bids on that. And so we would need a notice, an authorization to publish notice to bidders on a revised Phase 2 plan. I think Mr. Bass is prepared to discuss the revision, but the first thing we need to get past is, are you in a position now, is it pretty obvious, it should be pretty obvious that we need to reject the bids that have been received on Phase 2, which is the full completion, and take some other alternative.
All right, so you need a motion.
Well, we can. It's Mr. Morrison's project. I want to make sure that he's comfortable. If we're going to reject the bids, we would definitely want to add that.
If we're not gonna find the money, then we'd have to reject them and move on what we can do. I mean, there's just things like asphalt came in like 175 a ton, I think. You know, which they're trying to protect themselves, I understand, but anyway, yeah.
So I think it'd be appropriate, if that's the case, Mr. Morrison.
I don't know, we got any other choice.
I would need a motion to add to the agenda a not just discussion, but action on Gunner Road Phase 2 bids.
All right. Do I have a motion to add?
But at the same time, we're gonna discuss.
Yes, sir. We'll come back
Second.
after that, Jared, and talk about the rest of the discussion.
All
Yes,
right.
sir.
I make the motion to reject the current bids at this point.
All right. Mr. President, that'd be to add that,
Add
yes.
the agenda, yeah.
All right, I'll second that motion to add, to reject the bids from Gunner Road. Do I have any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
Now I need a motion to approve the rejection of the
I
bids.
make the motion to approve the rejection based on the fact that it's out of the money that we have set aside for that.
I'll second that motion. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
On discussion I would have is, a lot of the reasons is that way. One thing, we've been held up for 3 years to move forward.
Yes, sir.
And that's one of the big reasons we're out of the money too.
Yes, sir.
So, anyway,
Yes, we've had some challenges here that were visited upon us, some unnecessary challenges, I might add.
very
And,
avoidable,
and
very
we're-
avoidable challenges.
Yeah, and we're dealing with that now.
Right.
I would suggest, Mr. Morrison, let's get Mr. Bass up here to talk to you guys about the proposed revision, the scope and scale of that, and any questions or thoughts the board might have.
Thank you. So we looked at several different options. The most viable options, because we're currently working on phase one right now, is to reconstruct the road from the end of phase one to Gunner Road Baptist Church. That would leave the section from Gunner Road Baptist Church to 49 to be completed on another date. Now that would, doing this part of the project would solve some issues with some drainage. It would also take down a hill that's fairly dangerous out there. So our estimate based on.
Wait a minute, not only that now, you talking about the, nursing home issue.
Yeah, we're gonna do some work, even though it's past, the Baptist Church, we're still going to do some work in the parking lot of the nursing home, because the issue is, if you've ever been there, people park along the road, then back up into the road. So we've got some work on their parking lot.
Let me just address that. That's one of the most dangerous reasons, part of this, plus the hill you're taking out is one of the main hills that, in fact, they've been trying to get something done with that the whole time I've been elected, but they couldn't understand why we couldn't just cut a hill down.
Right.
And, it's extremely dangerous there. And the nursing home part, this section that he's talking about is gonna be probably the most dangerous, worst part of this, additional to what we're already doing. So this would cover the worst. What's left is the worst part.
Yes, sir. And so using the bid prices that Hemp Hill submitted on the bid that y'all just rejected, the estimated cost for this would be.
Well, should we be talking about that? Those numbers now?
You can,
That's
but
okay.
we have an active bid, you just rejected it, so
Okay.
you've got current pricing.
Okay.
Current pricing
Okay.
from your low bidder.
Okay.
Yeah, so that estimate came out to be $1.76 million for the road part of it. And then there's still the issue with the water line that has to be relocated, which would, if we did, the idea would be to go ahead and relocate all the water line that needed to be relocated.
So if we're only gonna do a portion of the road, the portion of the water line needs to be relocated.
No, we're gonna.
Is that gonna be on some of the road we're not doing?
Huh? Yeah, I would wanna relocate the whole line at this time, so you won't ever have to deal with what you're dealing with now.
But if we're not gonna do any work on it,
That still wouldn't matter. It still needs to be done. You won't have to deal with this again.
I'd rather do what we're actually to where we're at, you know?
I hadn't. And the reason, because, Jay, man, Lord, what we've been going through, it's gonna come right back and do it again, one day, when that additional part is completed. And you're not talking about that much money to do to complete the whole water line. And it needs to be upgraded anyway, it's always been known to need to be upgraded from, even back before this ever started. But the comment was made way back that they would make the county pay for it, one day. So that's the same thing. I'd hate to see anybody else have to deal with what we've been going through for 3 years on that. We're not talking about that much more.
Well, I just don't know how we would look if we move their water line and we don't do the road work.
Well, road work will be done eventually, eventually it'll work out. So I just think you'd be ahead without having to disrupt everybody again.
There's two pieces to that, Jay, that we have to be thoughtful about. Number one, we're working under a court order, right, that resolved the litigation in part.
Another deal.
And that court order discussed the water line being relocated in whole.
That's the work we're doing.
No, but it was for the entirety of the conflict along Gunner Road. My point is this, we possibly would have to go back to the chancellor and ask him to revise that interim order that he put in place to account for only that portion that we intend to relocate because it is adjacent to the road that is being reconstructed. We would have to fix that. And I think the Water Association would have something to say about whether or not the court actually does that. We would be right back in an entanglement with the court again to revise the scope of that portion, because it's a separate court order that's dealing with that. That's one piece.
You're not talking about that
Well,
large
and the-
amount of money for that.
The second piece, and I'm way over my skis here, I don't know what I'm talking about, so I'm gonna have to lean on Chris a little bit here. But it would seem to me that if we relocate a portion of their line, that the whole of their line system could be the efficiency of their entire system could be impacted by only moving a part.
Well, I don't, Chris, you make an add that, I'm just thinking what you're saying. Let's say, what's it going to, a 6 or 8 inch line?
Yes, so right now they have multiple lines along Gunner Road.
No, I mean, what are we putting in, a 6 or 8 inch? Which one?
We're putting in 6-inch and some 4-inch lines.
Okay, all right, but if we don't do the other, I mean, you'd be big choking down real quick. I don't know if that'd create a problem there too.
Well, I think what we'd have to do if we wanted to not do the whole water line, you're still, the way their system's laid out, we're still gonna have to do some of it past the nursing home, just because they have multiple lines in one along Gunner Road, and it's gonna be difficult to tie all that back in. So we're gonna have to at least go to a point where we can tie back in to an 8-inch line that they have.
I prefer looking at, I think all you're doing is creating more problems and potential water line problems that we could then be blamed for because we didn't do the whole thing.
What's the estimate on the water line relocation, Chris? That might be helpful.
Well, I mean, Hemphill's bid was $467,000 to do the water line work.
That was in their phase 2 bid that's just been
right.
rejected, right?
Yeah.
That's
All
right.
So that's the
That's
most
the whole
current
thing.
pricing, 467 to do the whole thing. So it's
Yeah.
1.76 plus an estimate of around $500,000. It's 2.3.
Do we have the funds to do it?
Well, we have some, but we do, there's a lot in, you're not talking, how much, you're talking about some, maybe not all of it. But we have been, on all the other projects and the, state aid stuff, we pull some money, little money out of cash, large sums. This would be a small amount if we had to take some out to finish that. I think that.
Well, how much do we have versus how much it's gonna cost?
Yeah, well, that's, yeah.
Nobody speak at once now.
I think we're right around 1.7, between 1.7 and 1.8 is what we have available.
And you're proposing to do how much?
Well,
Around 2.3.
on 2 point, my estimate for the whole, including all the water line, is 2.25.
So $500,000?
Right. They're about. That's what I'm saying, you wouldn't save enough by doing the water, leaving out a little small portion of water line, the whole thing.
We won't know until we get bids back if you guys decide to authorize staging a revised phase 2. I guess a phase 2A is what I'm talking about here. Staging that and authorizing the publication for notice to bids. We'll eventually get bids on that and we'll see. Are we, at this point, using the pricing that we got in the bids, are we gonna be close enough on the estimate for you guys to feel comfortable about letting a phase 2A contract? We won't know for sure until we get the bids back.
From what we do know, we think we're real close. From some numbers we've worked on.
We just need to go out after them, don't we?
Yeah,
So
you
let's-
really don't have much of an option, guys. You've rejected the bids, the only bid you got. You're coming to the completion of phase 1. So we're either gonna move forward with a revised phase, I don't see another path. We gotta move forward with a revised to, at a minimum, I think, given the situation that we're in with the Water Association, we've gotta get water lines relocated so we can move the litigation to a point of conclusion. So we
Plus-
gotta do that.
Yeah. Plus, this is probably the, worst, the section we will be doing will be the worst section of need for safety and everything of the road.
And it should be no secret to anybody on this board or in the public either. We will be asking Hayden Roberts, the judge, to order the Water Association to contribute their appropriate portion of the cost to relocate that water line infrastructure.
As he had said already.
Yeah.
Which is,
So how much were we short originally on the bids we just rejected?
I think Kemp Hill's bid was, including the water line portion, total was $5.5 million.
And we estimated,
Based on what they had submitted for their original bid on phase one, I think the estimate was around $3.2 million.
see what they did, they based off of, they figured it off of what the costs were on the other phase.
right,
And so that's where they came up with this. And it came in.
5.2 and 3.2?
5.5.
5.5 and 3.2. All right.
But both bids came in, the other one was about another $500,000, more than that.
Yes, sir.
So is there not a better point to stop where we know we're gonna come in with the money?
I mean, I can shorten
Not
it.
really, not really, and cover what needs to be covered as far as safety, and that's the whole point of this road.
Well, you know, when we do this, we're gonna create a racetrack, so you can throw that safety right out the window.
Well, every road you do, you create a racetrack, I guess you can say. Even you do overlay a small road and it's smooth, it creates faster. It's a racetrack out there now. Only thing, it has no shoulders or anything.
Redheads.
And people trying to back out, coming over those hills, they can't back out. Nursing home, you can't back out.
Well, I know you got a lot of projects going on at the moment, so we can't afford to do them all if we gonna be coming in over.
What are you talking about now?
What, there's other projects in your district you have, you know.
To start this Arbor project,
Well, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about road projects.
yeah. Well, we're working on what we work on.
Could we not take the funds off one of those and finish this?
I don't think so.
Well, there's not enough money?
I don't think so.
We certainly can't use the ARPA funds if that's where the discussion's headed. I don't think it is, but I just want to be clear. Yeah. Yeah, no, the money on the Senate bill, Jay, won't work either.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
I think I would rather like to see us bid it and see where it comes in, and then we'll just see what we do. We can't start till we know where we're looking.
Let's just get our bids in
That's
and
what I
then
think we need to
go
do.
from there.
Go from there.
All right.
All right.
I mean, I just know we've helped a lot of other projects, so I'm gonna do everything I can, and I've supported all that. I never, on all projects, some I didn't necessarily agree with, but I didn't speak up against. So,
Hey, man.
you know,
Let's get the
would like
bids
to
in and see
at
what
least,
they are.
let's advertise and let's see where we are. I mean, we really can't have much discussion about it till we know that part.
All right, Mr. Slay. Any other questions on this matter?
Can we, did I miss, can y'all give us some direction on?
We're gonna get bids.
Okay, all right, we're gonna revise the scope, and we're gonna go ahead, can we go ahead and add to the agenda? Let me help you guys add something to the agenda so we can go ahead and get the authority to publish in place. We don't, the publication won't go until Chris has conformed all the phase and y'all are happy with the phase, then, but it'll already be there. We don't have to wait for the next board meeting.
All right, give us a motion.
I make the motion to add this to the agenda?
Yes,
Is that
sir.
what you're doing?
That's correct.
Okay, make a motion to add this to the agenda?
I'll second the motion. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
This will be to revise the scope of Gunner Road Phase 2 as discussed, and to authorize the publication of the notice to bidders at the appropriate time.
I make that motion.
All right, second that motion. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
All right, thank you.
Hold up, Mike.
Wait, wait.
We can go into executive session real quick, then we can come back out. I'll make a motion to go into executive session on possible litigation.
We're gonna be discussing pending litigation and personnel.
Do I have a second? Mr. Gaines? Any discussion? Not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Motion made. All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carried.